Few television shows in history have struck the delicate balance between humor and heartbreak quite like MASH star. Running for 11 groundbreaking seasons from 1972 to 1983, this Korean War set series became far more than just entertainment. It was a cultural phenomenon, a mirror reflecting the absurdities of war, the resilience of the human spirit, and the strange ways people find hope in the darkest moments. For over a decade, millions of viewers tuned in every week, not just for laughs, but for a glimpse into something deeper. And behind the cameras, MASH * was breaking rules, making history, and rewriting the way television told stories. But even the show's most devoted fans may not realize the incredible truths, controversies, and emotional turning points that shaped it. This is the untold story of MASH *, the secrets hidden in plain sight, the creative battles that defined it, the heartbreaking departures, and the enduring legacy that still influences television today. Won a war that lasted longer on screen than in reality. The Korean War lasted barely over 3 years, from June 1950 to July 1953. But the fictional 4077th Mobile Army Surgical Hospital? They somehow fought, loved, laughed, and cried for 11 years across 251 episodes. That's nearly 4 times longer than the real conflict it portrayed. The irony wasn't lost on the show's creators. In fact, they sometimes winked at the absurdity of it in later episodes. But the length of the run also posed a unique challenge. By season 4, the writers had already mined most of the real Korean War events for stories. They had to get creative, exploring character-driven plots and inventing entirely new conflicts that had little to do with military history. The extended timeline had another side effect: the actors aged. By the final season, some characters looked noticeably older than the timeline would realistically allow. This became a running joke among fans. Were they fighting the longest war in television history? Perhaps, but it was also this extra time that allowed MASH * to evolve into something richer, exploring friendship, loss, and human nature in ways that would have felt rushed in a shorter series. From page to film to TV legend. Before it was a hit movie or television show, MASH * was a book. In 1968, Richard Hooker, the pen name for Dr. H. Richard Hornberger, wrote MASH, a novel about 3 army doctors. Hornberger had served as a surgeon during the Korean War, and he infused the book with his own first-hand experiences. The result was an irreverent, biting satire about military life, brimming with wisecracks and sharp commentary on bureaucracy. The novel inspired Robert Altman's 1970 film, which turned up the countercultural flair, and then CBS took the leap into television. But while the movie leaned heavily into dark satire, the series found a new balance, keeping the humor, but adding an emotional depth that made the characters unforgettable. A secret Vietnam War commentary. Though MASH * was officially set during the Korean War, it was impossible to ignore the shadow of another conflict, Vietnam. The show premiered in 1972, during the war's most controversial years. While it never directly mentioned Vietnam, the parallels were unmistakable. The Korean backdrop gave the writers the freedom to explore the senseless violence, bureaucratic chaos, and moral contradictions of war without triggering the heavy hand of network censorship. At the time MASH * premiered in 1972, the United States was still embroiled in the final, deeply divisive years of the Vietnam War. Television networks were wary of tackling Vietnam head-on. News coverage was already sparking public outrage, and executives feared alienating viewers or sponsors. By setting the series 2 decades earlier, during the Korean conflict, the creators achieved a kind of narrative camouflage. On the surface, they were telling stories from a safe, historical distance. But beneath that veneer, MASH * was a razor-sharp critique of war in general, and of Vietnam in particular. The parallels were undeniable. The futility of certain missions, the maddening layers of red tape, and the mental strain on those forced to serve. Episodes addressed issues that Vietnam veterans were living in real-time post-traumatic stress disorder, the disconnect between soldiers and the command structure, and the often absurd gap between military policy and human need. By using humor as a Trojan horse, the show could slip challenging truths past both the censors and some members of the audience who might have rejected them if delivered more directly. It was this blend of satire and empathy that made MASH * more than just another wartime comedy. It wasn't interested in glorifying the battlefield. It was intent on exposing its cost, one patient, one surgery, and one dark joke at a time. And it did so in a way that allowed viewers to confront the moral weight of Vietnam without ever having to hear the words spoken aloud. For Gary Berghoff, the bridge between film and TV. Gary Berghoff, who played the sweet, animal-loving company clerk Radar O'Reilly, was the only actor from Altman's 1970 film to reprise his role on television. His portrayal in the movie was so memorable that the TV producers sought him out specifically. But he didn't simply walk in. Berghoff auditioned again, proving he could adapt Radar for the smaller screen and longer format. Over time, his TV version of Radar became richer and more layered than the film version, evolving from comic relief into the show's moral center. His familiarity with the role provided continuity that helped win over fans of the movie who were skeptical about the series. When Berghoff finally left after 7 seasons, it wasn't due to behind-the-scenes feuds. He simply wanted more time with his family and to pursue passions like wildlife photography. His exit was handled with extraordinary care. Goodbye, Radar became one of the most emotional 2-part episodes in TV history. 5. When the Laughter Stopped. One of MASH's boldest innovations was its refusal to treat war like a laugh track could fix it. CBS executives in the 1970s insisted that sitcoms needed canned laughter, but the MASH creators drew a line. No laugh track during operating room scenes. At first, the network feared audiences wouldn't know when to laugh without it. But the compromise created something extraordinary. Viewers had to navigate the tonal shifts themselves, moving from dark comedy to raw drama without artificial cues. The silent, tense surgical scenes became some of the most powerful moments in the series, earning praise from critics for trusting the intelligence of the audience. 6. The Malibu Creek Connection. Though MASH looked like it was filmed halfway around the world, the outdoor scenes were actually shot at Malibu Creek State Park, just outside Los Angeles. The production built a full working set, complete with a helicopter landing pad, tents, and military equipment. It was an authentic-looking but grueling location, scorching in the summer, unexpectedly cold in the winter, and often at the mercy of the elements. Dust storms could kick up suddenly, forcing production to halt until visibility returned. Rain turned the dirt roads into thick mud, stranding vehicles and making it impossible to roll heavy camera equipment. Cast members often recalled trudging through the uneven terrain in full costume, sometimes in sweltering heat that made the army fatigues feel like weighted blankets. Wildlife had no respect for shooting schedules. Deer, snakes, and even coyotes occasionally wandered into frame, requiring retakes. On one memorable day, a curious deer strolled right through the set during a tense scene, sending the crew into fits of laughter and forcing them to start over. In 1982, nature had its final say when a wildfire tore through Malibu Creek State Park, destroying much of the outdoor camp. Rather than rebuild the set exactly as it had been, the producers saw an opportunity to weave reality into fiction. In the final episode, the camp appears burned down, a powerful visual metaphor for the impermanence of war, the fragility of human endeavors, and the closing of a chapter in both the characters' lives and television history. Today, remnants of the set still draw devoted fans. Visitors to Malibu Creek State Park can find interpretive signs marking where key scenes were filmed, as well as rusted vehicles left behind as relics. It's a place where fiction and reality intertwine, where the ghosts of the 4077th still seem to linger among the rolling hills. 7. The departures that changed everything. Not all cast changes were peaceful. Wayne Rogers, who played Trapper John, left after 3 seasons, frustrated that scripts increasingly revolved around Alan Alda's Hawkeye. McLean Stevenson, who portrayed the affable Colonel Henry Blake, left in hopes of a bigger career. The writers could have sent Blake home with a quiet farewell. Instead, they shocked the nation. Radar somberly announced that Blake's plane had been shot down, killing him. For a comedy series in the 1970s, this was unheard of. The moment became one of the most gut-wrenching scenes in television history. Replacing them brought fresh dynamics. Mike Farrell as B.J. Honeycutt, Harry Morgan as Colonel Potter. The show didn't just survive the changes, it thrived. 8. Alan Alda more than Hawkeye. Alan Alda wasn't just the star. He was one of the show's driving creative forces. He directed 32 episodes, wrote 13, and pushed for the removal of canned laughter during serious scenes. His directorial style favored emotional authenticity over flashy visuals, and his episodes often became fan favorites. Balancing acting and directing on such a demanding show meant long, grueling days, sometimes 16 hours or more. Alda would often go from performing emotionally charged scenes as Hawkeye Pierce to immediately stepping behind the camera, guiding the crew, shaping performances, and fine-tuning the tone of each episode. This was not a vanity project. Alda approached directing with the same meticulous care he brought to acting. He wasn't interested in flashy camera tricks or gimmicks. Instead, Alda focused on capturing the emotional truth of a moment. He believed the audience should feel like they were eavesdropping on real people, not watching actors hit their marks. This meant encouraging improvisation when it served the scene and giving the cast the freedom to explore their characters' vulnerabilities. Alda also fought for creative decisions that pushed the show beyond the sitcom mold. He was a strong advocate for removing canned laughter during serious moments, especially in the operating room, arguing that it undermined the reality of the character's work. He wanted to portray the brutality and chaos of war medicine without sugarcoating it, even if that meant risking audience discomfort. His dual role helped MASH evolve from a sharp, joke-driven sitcom into what critics later called a dramedy, a hybrid that could make you laugh 1 minute and tear up the next. Under his influence, the show tackled topics television usually avoided: PTSD, death, moral compromise, romance under fire, and the loneliness of being far from home. Some of the series' most memorable and critically acclaimed episodes, such as Dear Sigmund, Lifetime, and the record-breaking finale Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, bore Alda's touch as both performer and director. In fact, he remains one of the very few people in television history to win Emmys for acting, writing, and directing on the same series. In the end, Alda's commitment wasn't just to MASH *'''''''''''''''''''''''''''''''' success, but to its integrity. He made sure it never lost sight of its humanity, ensuring the show was not only entertaining, but deeply meaningful, a rare combination that has kept it relevant decades after its final episode. 9. A theme song too dark for TV. The haunting MASH * theme, Suicide is Painless, was originally written for the 1970 film, with lyrics penned by director Robert Altman's 14-year-old son, Mike. The words, centered on suicide as an escape from pain, were deemed far too dark for television. CBS used only the instrumental version, which became one of the most recognizable melodies in TV history. Ironically, Mike Altman reportedly made more money from writing those lyrics than his father earned directing the film. 10. Finale that stopped a nation. On February 28, 1983, MASH * said goodbye with Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, a 2.5-hour finale that drew in over 105 million viewers. That's 77% of all television watchers in the United States. It wasn't just the most-watched TV episode at the time, it was the most-watched scripted broadcast in U.S. history, a record it still holds. Cities reported drops in water pressure after the episode ended, thanks to millions of viewers waiting until the credits rolled before rushing to the bathroom. The finale tied up storylines, gave satisfying goodbyes to beloved characters, and closed with the image of goodbye spelled out in stones, a message to the audience as much as to the departing doctors and nurses of the 4077th. Before MASH * sitcoms played it safe. They were built on tidy half-hour episodes where the status quo was restored by the final scene. Characters didn't really grow. Serious issues, war, death, morality, were treated with a light touch, if at all. And if a character died, it was usually off-screen, reversible, or forgotten by the next episode. MASH * shattered all of that. It dared to treat comedy as a gateway to truth, not just a delivery system for punchlines. The series proved that a show could make you laugh one moment and leave you stunned into silence the next. And it did it without condescending to the audience. Episodes like The Interview, shot entirely in a black-and-white documentary style, felt more like cinema than television. Instead of rapid-fire jokes, it offered raw, unfiltered monologues from the characters, some improvised, about the toll of war. In Abyssinia, Henry, the shocking death of Colonel Henry Blake wasn't just a plot twist, it was a cultural earthquake. For the first time, audiences saw a beloved comedy character die suddenly, with no heroic ending, no closure, and no way to undo it. That moment proved MASH * was willing to risk breaking hearts for the sake of honesty. Character arcs were treated with unprecedented care. Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan began as a caricature of a by-the-book army nurse, but over the years, the writers and Loretta Swit's performance gave her layers. She became a leader respected by her peers, a woman navigating the complexities of love, ambition, and respect in a male-dominated environment. The risks MASH asterisk took rippled through the industry. Without its boldness, shows like Cheers, The West Wing, ER, Murder One, and even The Sopranos might never have dared to blend humor with moral ambiguity and real emotional stakes. It showed television writers that audiences could handle complexity, that they wanted complexity. And perhaps most importantly, it demonstrated that TV could be art without losing its entertainment value. It didn't have to choose between ratings and relevance. MASH asterisk proved you could have both, and in doing so, it rewrote the rules for everything that came after. Its influence can be seen in shows like ER, The West Wing, and The Sopranos series that dared to blend entertainment with reflection. Decades later, MASH asterisk remains a landmark in television history, not just for its ratings, awards, or longevity, but for its unflinching portrayal of humanity under pressure. It wasn't just a show about war, it was a show about people trying to stay human in inhuman circumstances. It was about humor as a coping mechanism, about grief and love, about finding slivers of hope when the world seemed hopeless. And perhaps that's why, even today, its lessons still resonate. The laughter, the heartbreak, the courage to ask difficult questions. It's all still there, waiting for anyone willing to step back into the 4077th and see for themselves why MASH asterisk will never truly say goodbye.